Hello, I'm the curator, and this is today's item. Now, it may appear to you as a regular Super Nintendo Entertainment System controller, Super Famicom in Japan. Is the American design, which I've never really liked, to be honest. I think the European one with the multicoloured buttons, it just looks a lot nicer, but that's a matter of opinion. But this is, in fact, as you could tell by the title of the video, actually, it's incredibly hard on YouTube to do sort of videos of such a nature where you sort of do a surprise. Anyway, that's not the story. The story is this. This is a USB SNES controller created by CSL Computers Limited. I bought it off of Amazon, and this won't be a review. This won't really be an observation. It'll be more of a rant, I suppose you could say. I bought this to use with, I knew about my Raspberry Pi, which I did in last week's video. Here is said Pi. I knew that I was going to use it as an emulation machine. So what I did was I bought for it this controller. I'd looked up about the RetroPie thing, and I'd seen that most of the controls are based around the SNES. Indeed, the RetroPie team have a sort of an interface bob that you can sort of plug in, and you can plug SNES, actual SNES and NES controllers into it. And I looked up most of the games that I'd be playing, and most of them would they'd work with this controller. Even some of the PlayStation ones, which have more buttons and such like. I looked it all up, and they all work. I can't remember which site I was on, but they were actually listing, in plain English, because I couldn't remember off the top of my head for most of them the controls, and I saw that they would work with this. USB controllers, especially ones made by companies that aren't Microsoft and Sony. I mean, the Sony PlayStation 3 controller and the Microsoft Xbox controller are perfect for USB controllers. I tend towards the PlayStation myself. I've been playing this PlayStation forever, basically, for as long as I can remember. But they work. And it happens to be the case that RetroPie actually has provisions in place, like you can install drivers, and you can sort of bind to the system if you have a Bluetooth dongle-o-matic. The wirelessness of controllers, so you can sit right back into your comfortable chair with your television on and play without having to worry about tangled wires. You could do all of that with these the two controllers. But sadly, I haven't the money for them at the moment, because I'm saving up for decent, as I've mentioned. So I tried to go, it's the old adage, get what you paid for. I went for this. I think this was less than £5. It's not very good. The L and R buttons are passable, but they feel a bit sort of soft, like there's a slight delay when you press them to some stuff actually happening. These buttons are sort of as good as they can be, but they feel like if you happen to play like fighter games, which I don't really enjoy fighter games, but anything that involves button mashing, they would end quite soon. They would break quite soon. They would end. They would just disappear. We have reached the end of our lifetime, and they just vanish off the planet. The start and select buttons are bad. They feel a bit gummy, and they don't press down very well. But where it really falls apart is the D-pad. I don't have any provisions for recording games, but just take it from me. I'm not sensationalizing here. This is just the way it actually is. When you press up, you can go down. That's sort of going against the point of a D-pad. When you press sideways, it occasionally goes left, it occasionally goes up and then down, and when you press right, it goes right occasionally. I've managed to get around some of these just by, playing it in a slightly different manner. But it's other things as well. I mean, the face sticker for the buttons is, you know, is gone, as you can see. It wasn't properly attached. It came out of the box peeling, and it just peeled off after usage. The thing on the back that actually says anything about it is peeled off as well. The wire's starting to come out. That happened with another USB controller I got, this time an NES one. Let me just untangle it here. It's a common theme amongst the USB controllers I have. And another controller I tried to buy to rectify these problems came in not working at all, and I am actually seeking a refund and a return for it. But yeah, I mean, I suppose it was my fault for buying cheap, but I didn't have much of a choice at the time, sadly. I know this is a very first world problem, but decent takes just complete priority until it's finished. And it'll be finished eventually. It's just, until then, let's just fiddle in with the camera then. Until then, I'm stuck with hardware like this. I mean, it works a bit. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy IX, which is one of my favourite games. I've been playing it, and thankfully it doesn't require precise D-pad management. It's mainly sort of A buttonings, you know, left and right, up and down. Not a lot of that needs to be done. It's just choosing options, menus and stuff like that. Thankfully, as like in like racing games and certain strategy games, I wouldn't want to use that D-pad. Basically, I tried playing Crash Bandicoot Crash Bandicoots 1 to 3 with it as well, and it was a tad annoying trying to jump forward and ending up with jumping backwards. I can't say that this would be the case for every version of this controller though. It might just be that I've got a bad one out of the batch. I'm not going to blame the companies themselves that made it. Again, it's, you know, it's the fact that I bought cheap. I'm surprised it worked at all out of the box. The third controller I bought didn't work at all. I suppose it's just, I've used a lot of these controllers and none of them have worked. Basically, they've all broken really quickly. The wires have fallen out, the buttons have gone like gummy and like fallen apart really quickly. It's just, it's sort of sad in a way, because it's sort of like an unintentional monopoly on the PS3 and Xbox people's part, because, you know, they're making them, they're making those controllers, and these people are trying to, you know, buy these alternatives, but they just don't work. And, you know, they sort of cornered the market, Sony and Microsoft, on actual good working USB controllers, which is a bit of a shame, really. Is it worth buying? That's up to you, really. I'm not going to buy another one myself. I'm going to wait until Decent is finished. I'm going to deal with this controller until then. And then I'm going to buy a PS3 one. I'm going to buy a proper Wii controller as well, because I want to use a Wii emulator. I'm using all of these legitly. I have bought the games that I'm going to play, and I have owned the systems that I'm going to play. I'm not breaking any laws, apart from the ones that I've broken. Thank you very much for watching, and good day to you all.